about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. 1-877 Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So this study is going to be one of these. Well, duh. I mean, tell us something we don't know, but it's important for the next segment. So a study has come out saying kids who use social media score lower on reading and memory tests. Now, again, this is something that I think you and this is nothing new. It's sad that's the truth of it, but unfortunately, it's the shall we say substitution that these kids have used, where rather than going to a book, rather than speaking to grandma or their aunt and uncle, rather than saying, "Dad, can I help you in the garage? Mom, can I help you do what you're doing?" Instead, kids are getting away from books. They're getting away from family members and learning and observing to going to their social media. And so a new study published in JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, finds and confirms what we've all said, that these adolescents that were tested on vocabulary and memory tests, did much worse than those who don't use social media. According to study author Mitch Pristine, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, physician says it confirms a lot, psychologist, says it confirms a lot about what we're hearing about from schools all across the country, which is that kids are just having a real hard time focusing on being able to learn as well as they used to because of the ways in which social media has changed their ability to process information, perhaps. So there's a study called the Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study, and scientists have been following thousands of preteens as they go through adolescence to understand the development of their brains. And so Dr. Nagata and his colleagues used data on 6,000 children aged 9 to 10, followed them through early adolescence, and they split them up based on their social media use. They said the biggest group consisted of about 58% of the kids who used little or no social media, but then the second largest group was 37% of kids who had a low level use of social media, but by the time they turned 13, they were spending about an hour each day using social media. And so you're trying to catch them before they get into the late middle school, high school, a time where they're supposed to be continuing to learn precipitously, but not, is crucial. So they looked at their reading skills and vocabulary skills, oral reading, recognition, picture, vocabulary tests, etc. And they said what was notable actually to me, quote, and perhaps surprising, was that even the low social media users, so those who had about an hour a day by age 13, did perform on average 1 to 2 points lower on the reading and memory tests compared to those who don't use social media. The higher group, the ones using social media more throughout the day, scored 4 to 5 points lower. So even though this is not surprising, this is, what do we do practically? We have teachers incorporating social media. You have such, for me growing up, I would watch MacGyver, Moonlighting, Dallas, Dukes of Hazzard. You would maybe watch movies like Back to the Future. So there were things that part of society you would do. And then, I didn't like the Smurfs. Wasn't a big E.T. fan, but yeah, I saw the movie. But these are things that you would, just do because that's what's in society you did. But now it's social media, not just Facebook. They don't use Facebook anymore. Whether it's Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat. And if this is what all the cool kids are doing, and this is what all the other kids are doing, how do you get them to stop? One of you had asked about my kids on social media. You notice that my kids aren't on social media a lot, but I am. Why? And how did I do that? How did I get my kids to not be on social media. Well, it's interesting. This was on their own. Now, I think it's because I'm so public and many people know them. I think they really craved that privacy. You know, they also have a good network of friends who also aren't into social media, that don't want to post everything. And so it's very easy for them to say, look, this is where I was, dude. You know, like my son went to the Raiders game yesterday, and go Raiders. They beat the Titans. It's a pretty good game. And I'm impressed because the Raiders have had a really tough season so far. My son went. I told him to take pictures and all that. Did he post them all over? Probably not. Because that's not what interests them. Now, mind you, my kids are now, in their 20s. But they really weren't about the whole Facebook and all of that before. It just didn't appeal to them. And in fact, I think it kind of scared them a little. And then they would hear the horror stories. And so they're like, well, nobody could post, and tag me if I'm not on social media. If, I don't know, I tear my pants or something like that. Not that they tear their pants, but one of them did at on a roller coaster. The roller coaster ripped through his pants. I wanted to show a picture and show everybody, but he wouldn't let me. So how do you if your kids are obviously struggling in school and they're using social media, how do you switch that off? What do you do? Well, first you need to come up with some parameters. All right. What is it that you're using social media for? Well, that's how my friends talk to me. So if I don't respond, it's like not answering the phone or not answering your message. Well, then, you might have to, let's come up with a plan because your social media use is going to be limited. So we don't want them upset. We don't want them leaving you out. You will call them, text them, not during dinner time. I mean, you need to come up with parameters, and you're allowed to do that. I was not allowed to be on the phone with friends during dinner time. And I remember calling my friend saying, it's dinner time. I have to get off the phone. Oh, okay. That's why your mom sounded mad at me. I mean, it was there. You're allowed to have those restrictions. Next is, what is it that they're doing? Is it because of music? Is it because they're trying to stay aware? Then you can have certain times a day where it's allowed, but not during school. That is not for them to get false news. No, they got to learn. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
Lisa Wolf here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you. And be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So I have been just praying and praying and praying that the hostages come home. Really, really hard to go on with life knowing that some of your people are, trapped, being brutally raped and tortured every day of this 2-year ordeal. And so for the hostages to come home today in Israel, an absolute relief, a relief for their family. Thank God. Thank Trump. This has been a huge, huge day. I know some people are concerned that as part of the deal, the life sentence prisoners of Hamas and Palestinians that participated in this get to be freed. But I got to tell you, the first step first, we had to get the hostages out of there. This whole war started because of the Hamas massacre back in October 7th, 2023, them taking 250 hostages, killing, but after torturing and raping them. I mean, just horrific things that they did. And one of you had asked, how are some hostages alive, whereas others were killed? What happened? And we're going to get a little bit more, details, obviously from the surviving hostages, but from what we understand, it wasn't a very organized, shall we say, hostage. None of it is. Terrorists are not organized, and they don't follow, the rules of ethics and all that. And so, unfortunately, we feel that many of them, especially the women, were enslaved. All of them, we believe that. Horribly tortured. They were forced to beg for food, and I don't know what happened to those old. Remember, they were taking pictures with grandmas and grandpas, and we assume they got killed. We heard that some of the hostages, when earlier this year, when they went in, found that they were bound and shot in the head, execution style, and so it was just horrific. What had happened. And so many of the hostages, are having a difficult time talking about what happened to them, and I don't blame them. You don't want to relive that. It's humiliating, to talk about what was done to you, and how do you ever, go back to a normal life, and the medical team has their work cut out for them, to try to protect them from any diseases they could have gotten from the malnutrition, from the rapes, from the brutalization, from the broken bones, and then the psychological trauma. But with one of the signs of the chaos is Hamas, as part of the 20-point plan, was supposed to also allow the bodies to go back homes to the loved ones for them to be able to bury their dead. And I guess of the 20 or 40 they were supposed to have, sadly, I think they're only bringing back 4. And they claim that they didn't know where, the bodies were. They unfortunately, if they just left it up to, barbarians to do whatever they wanted with the Israelis, you could just assume, what could have possibly happened to the corpses. So just so frightening. And also many of them might not want the evidence. Hamas, might not want to. It's easier for them to say, we can't find them, than for them to posthumously look at what trauma was done, the shattered pelvises, the broken they could see the signs of torture. So they probably are handpicking who they're sending back because they didn't want that as evidence of what they did. What was the 20-point peace plan? Well, Gaza has to be a de-radicalized terror zone that will never pose a threat again to its neighbors. Gaza has been run by Hamas all these years, not Israel. And having Hamas within, 30, 40 miles of Tel Aviv and major cities in Israel, it was, peace concerts, just a few miles away from Gaza, and kibbutzes were sadly the Hamas attacked. Israel has to make sure that area, which has beautiful beachfront property. Trump is right. Gaza could be transformed into an exquisite resort town. I mean, it could be, not an area of terror, and Palestinians could be free to be who they are, LGBTQAI plus, free to, dye their hair. The women, if you notice, the women don't get to necessarily walk around like they do in Israel, where they can wear what they want, have the hair color they want. It's a really restrictive zone. Gaza will be redeveloped for the benefit of the people of Gaza. They say if both agreed to the proposal, the war would immediately end, and it did. Israel forces withdrew within 24. They withdrew after a 24-hour ceasefire. Hamas was supposed to start releasing hostages, which they did. And then once all the hostages are released, Israel is supposed to release 250 life sentence prisoners plus the 1,700 Gazans who were detained after October 7th, 2023. All Israeli hostages to be released, as well as their remains. Israel will also release the remains of 15 deceased Gazans. Once the hostages are returned, Hamas members are supposed to commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons. They will get amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries. Now, that's going to be a little tricky because the average country may not want Hamas, which is kind of what was part of the situation. That's why Trump had to get other countries as a part of the extension of the Abraham Accords and this peace deal to get involved, because nobody wants Hamas. The Palestinians don't want Hamas. We're trying to free Palestine from Hamas, not Israel, from Hamas. And Hamas has to get the hell out of there. But who knows where they're going to go. They're going to want to go to a place where they can, breed more terror. They're terrorists. Now, they're not going to all of a sudden be, okay, we all go work for an insurance company and wear a suit and tie. No. But the growth of Gaza, getting their water, electricity, rehabilitation, getting Hamas out of the hospitals and turning the hospitals into hospitals again and not fronts for Hamas is huge. So being able to remove the rubble, reopen roads, that's going to be next. Then they're going to make sure that Hamas doesn't interfere with aid coming in. Israel was giving aid every day that averaged at least 3,000 calories per person per day. And Hamas was taking it because they wanted to have this PR sort of campaign against Israel, going, they're starving us. Meanwhile, Israel's like, we're bringing in food. And the place, and you see, many Gazans were well fed, but Hamas would not let, those in certain areas get that aid. Now the aid has to go there. They're going to open up the Rafah crossing in both directions. Gaza will be governed by a temporary transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee responsible for delivering the day-to-day running of public services and municipalities for the people in Gaza. This committee will be made up of qualified Palestinians and international experts with oversight and supervision by a new international transition body. Now, some people say, well, how will this work? Well, there's going to be a board of peace headed and chaired by President Donald Trump, as well as other members, including former Prime Minister Tony Blair. And you have a lot of Palestinians that once Hamas is gone, they could breathe and speak freely. Now, Hamas has already vowed over the weekend that they are going to go after collaborators, and that doesn't help. Hamas is supposed to back the hell down, get out, and let Palestinian engineers and scientists do what they need to help rebuild. So it's going to take other countries watching. Not an easy step. There's going to be also a panel of experts to help give Gaza the chance to thrive. Again, it's beachfront. Those beaches are exquisite. I mean, they're just down the beach from Tel Aviv. Gaza could look like Tel Aviv if you don't have Hamas ruining it. And so they're hoping to have international groups involved. And there's going to be a special economic zone established with preferred tariff and access rates to be negotiated by participating countries. No one's going to be forced to leave Gaza, except Hamas. Those who wish to leave will do so free and free to return. We understand that there were some Palestinians who joined Hamas, but if they aren't officially Hamas, they can stay. And so Hamas will not have any role in the governance of Gaza. 1-877-DOC-DALIA. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret.
Powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Sadly, we said goodbye to Diane Keeton this weekend. She died at the age of 79. We have not had an official cause of death. Family is asking for privacy, as I would expect, and I don't blame them. But the Annie Hall, Godfather, Father of the Bride, First Wives Club, I mean, she was just multiple generations loved her. You can't look at her and not smile. But unfortunately, she seemed to be getting ill for a while, and nobody knew about that. And in fact, when I told my husband, I go, Diane Keeton died, he said she was sick. How old was she? And 79 is still young in terms of but it's unfortunately. It took Diane Keeton. So the TMZ, I guess, got the 911 call, and it's been released. But somebody did call in LA, because she lived in Southern California, the LA Fire Department, to respond to quote unquote a person down at her home address shortly after 8 a.m. on Saturday. She was transported to a nearby hospital and then later pronounced dead. And many individuals had said, close friends, said that she had become increasingly reclusive in the past year. And one longtime friend, Carol Bayer Sager, remarked how shockingly thin Diane Keeton had become before her death. She said, I saw her 2 to 3 weeks ago, and she was very, very thin. She had lost so much weight. And so we keep hearing this. Well, just like with Gene Hackman, these actors and actresses, where the movie's on. And it's funny because I was almost shocked to see what Gene Hackman looked like, because, you got Crimson Tide, you got Superman, you got Hoosiers. I mean, you're seeing him all the time, and you're thinking that's what he looks like. Same thing with Diane Keeton. I think a couple weeks ago, Father of the Bride was on, or Father of the Bride 2, and I'm looking at her, and she's vibrant and smiling, and but while the world keeps seeing them in TV ads and commercials and movies, they're living a whole different life. And many of these individuals are unfortunately going through, whether it's cancer, whether it could be dementia, where they're not eating. I mean, people were shocked that Gene Hackman didn't know his wife died. Well, this wife could have been dead for days. And then he collapses and dies. Dog's not fed. People didn't. We were shocked. It's like, wait, this is Gene Hackman. I mean, he's a badass, tough guy, but unfortunately, Diane Keeton losing a lot of weight. And what really makes celebrity deaths and celebrity illness so difficult for people is because you look at them as immortal. I mean, Michael J. Fox has been struggling with Parkinson's. But when you ask me to think of Michael J. Fox, I think of him in Back to the Future. Spunky, athletic, cute, Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis, I'm taking really, really hard what's going on with him and his frontal temporal lobe dementia. And, Die Hard was on the other day. I mean, I could watch Die Hard all day long. One of my favorite movies ever. And you watch Bruce Willis and he, young, vibrant. And so you think also that these individuals are so rich that they have access to the best medicine, then the best care. And then hearing that they wither away and become almost unrecognizable, it's frightening because it reminds us of our own mortality. If this could happen to Diane Keeton or Bruce Willis or Gene Hackman or Sean Connery. Sean Connery, I believe, had dementia in his final days. Oh, wow. Okay, well, what am I in for? And it's frustrating to think that having all the money, all the Hollywood doctors at your fingertips isn't enough. It's not. Nature always wins. There's that phrase, man danks, God links. Man works, God laughs. And not laughing meanly. It's just, he or nature or whatever you believe is in control. And, but a very common thread is the reclusivity that you see, like you saw with Diane Keaton, with Gene Hackman. And you wonder, just a thought, that was it their celebrity stardom that caused their death to be accelerated? For me, I'm on the radio. Most people don't know what I look like. I'll go shopping. I'll be out and about. No makeup, hair not done, wearing a muumuu. I don't care. Nobody's going to take paparazzi pictures of me. But you saw a picture of Gene Hackman a couple years back. I posted it. I was like, wow. Here he was in his late, I think he was in his late 80s. And I'm like, he still looks good, but he was unrecognizable. And maybe these celebrities are like, I don't want somebody taking a picture and capturing me how I look in this state sick. Or they're not thinking that because they have dementia. And they stay reclused and they're walled up because unfortunately with the way pictures are in smartphones, anybody will capture any image of you now. I wish there were kind of laws against that. I don't want people taking pictures of me or anybody taking pictures of you and then posting it and then having that access. That's, the memory is one thing, seeing somebody cross the street. But to take a picture of you, that's like property. That's like stealing to me. And then holding on to that picture. I mean, Farrah Fawcett with her pinup posters, look, this is a decision I'm making. I'm getting paid to be on this poster. This is something I am agreeing to and giving consent. I don't give consent to people taking pictures of me. So what do celebrities do? Well, then they hide. They become recluses. And what if they're not going outside and getting some sun? What if they're not living life? What if they're just sitting home hiding out? When you talk to centenarians about how did they live over 100? I did my daily walk. I would have my wine. I would be around family. I would be around friends. I went to church. I went to, they talk about being active. But being walled up at home, now I get it. If you're sick, you're sick. And you could turn your home into a mini hospital. But I just wonder if many of these celebrity deaths get accelerated because they're not out and about. And it's really, really important to have that. And you become very isolated. The isolation of older age is deadly. And I know people say, oh, everyone's being dramatic when they say that. No, it is. When the family doesn't want to come see you. When you're not invited to all the parties. Where you're not, going to church, going to We have a family member. We have my friend's mom is 92, and she goes to church every week. They take her. She goes to all the birthday parties. She goes to, they take her out. I come visit her. I take her to bingo. I mean, getting at, and it has added years onto her life. But the isolation is deadly. And sadly, you also have family members that have alienated other family members so that they become isolated. I caution you all about how if you have a loved one you've always loved and lately they're mean to you, understand that could be the cancer or the dementia. And then oftentimes older people do things that hurt you that you're like, I don't want to be around them. A very common thing people tell me is that they're older, they're senior, they're helping take care of is accusing them of stealing their money, is accusing them of something. And they're like, I'm trying to help them because I need to pay their bills. I need to pay the doctor. I can't use my money. I have to use theirs. And they're like, I don't want to be accused of this. And they back off. It's not easy. And, if you don't have a family support system, that's tough. But I would then go to the doctor and say, look, I don't want her accusing me of these things. So, they'll talk about witnesses. They'll talk about ways to manage, affairs. But it's not easy. R.I.P. Diane Keeton, rest in peace. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99-799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99-799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99-799. Again, FREE to 99-799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So we are in day 13 now of the shutdown. The Senate's not voting today because it's Columbus Day. So I guess there's going to be a Senate vote tomorrow. And Federal Columbus Day. Happy Columbus Day, everybody. Also recognized as Indigenous Peoples Day. House Democrats are going to meet tomorrow as well to discuss a path forward, but they're not meeting today. And so the shutdown is going to be going into at least day 14. And as Chuck Schumer said, which is why we're calling it the Schumer shutdown, He said, every day this goes on, it's better for us. Keep in mind, I do not predict that the shutdown is going to end tomorrow because the Democrats are planning the No Kings rally. That's supposed to happen, I believe, Saturday the 18th. And this is supposed to be across the United States. And it's supposed to be millions to protest Trump. You would think everybody would be spending some time today commending the fact that we are closer and closer to peace in the Middle East and that the war in Gaza may end. That's, if Trump is king, that's the monarchy it is. This was pretty impressive. And Trump's only in office another 3 years. They really need to act like he is, trying to. I don't even want to validate it by giving it time, airtime. But these No Kings protests is the anti-Trump, maybe Antifa, whoever's anti, to take to the streets and protest Trump. And then, mind you, peaceful assembly, I support. You have every right to air. This is what we fought for. This is what our country is so amazing about. You have every right to peacefully assemble. Unfortunately, sadly, many of these protests start seeing violence, and we've seen, unfortunately, some of the violence inflicted on our ICE, on our police officers, on innocent people wanting to be there, exercising their rights. And so I do get concerned. And, we're at the 250th anniversary. We're going into that and culminating on July 4th. And I guess the No Kings Day kicked off June 14th in response to our army being honored and celebrated on that day, which actually coincided with Trump's 79th birthday. So 2,000 No Kings protests are scheduled for next Saturday. L.A., Boston, Washington, Chicago, Atlanta, New Orleans, Kansas City, Bozeman. And these protests may even go into Canada. We hear going down into Mexico. And so, according to their website, they have a No Kings website. They're also going to be protesting in front of the Capitol. They have ways for you to find an event, and there's a map, and they're showing all these dots and mobilization kickoff call. And so my concern is, because this is something that many of the Democrats are hoping will give them some wind beneath their political wings, I think they're not going to vote to continue the government and keep the government open. They need people off work that could come out and go to these things. And it's a shame, because we really have a right to do, listen, I support peaceful protest and I support assembly, but be productive. There's so many things you could advocate for. I mean, in Canada, they deport you if you come across illegally, if you lie, if you're at all deceitful with your application process. And you don't see protesters in Canada. Why? Well, because they didn't have the debacle that we did with Biden, where illegal immigration came in and it was just our borders were flooded. And so, you could very easily say, look, those who got in, my bad, they're here now. Let's support them. Let's help them. But those who are criminals or we're here to support those who are doing the process legally. Let's help these illegal aliens go back and start the process right. I mean, there's other ways you could be productive about this. But instead, it's all about No Kings. Well, in the meantime, with the shutdown, the spigots are off. Money's not coming in, which means our federal workers aren't getting paid. Airline flights are more and more delays. God bless our TSA agents. God bless our airline workers and our air traffic controllers that are still going to work. They will all get back pay. But you have some individuals called out sick saying, look, what if we don't? The Smithsonian Zoo got closed. The Panda Cam went offline. Civil service workers were notified that 4,000 of them, that they may be laid off. In fact, I believe the education department has now fired 20% of its workforce amid the shutdown. Now, the Department of Education was already starting to get thinned out, but on October 10th, they laid off 460 employees, which is something that Trump said may happen, because if the money's not coming in and we got to figure out where we're going to spend the money on, we might as well spend it on, programs that are working, that are successful. And so I hate to see people laid off, especially since a lot of those people were the ones that wanted to stick it out. So I'm a little mixed on this, because for those individuals who had that February 6th deadline of, look, you report back to work, we're reporting to work in person, none of this remote work anymore. If you don't want to report in person, then, we're going to give you a severance package. Don't come to work if you don't want to, and you'll be paid through September, end of September. However, those individuals said, no, I do want to come to work. I've always been coming to work. Well, I like what the president wants to do. I want to help. It's a little frustrating to think that they lost their jobs when they could have taken the deal. But the education department has already been, reduced about 20%. We still don't know who next is going to be cut. I do not want to see layoffs cut, but if there is no money coming in, they're going to have to decide where the money goes. And we do have a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. So, hopefully the Senate gets their act together, and we're hoping, I think they say all they need are 5 more senators, Democratic senators, to already go with Catherine Cortez Masto, John Fetterman, and I forget the other Democratic senator, who said, look, let's open up our government. We are voting to just continue the funding. But Democrats want to use this as an opportunity for chaos. And as Chuck Schumer said, every day this goes is good for us. And that's what I hate about politics. Not all Democrats want this. The majority of Democrats and Republicans, are moderate, and they're level-headed, common sense. So, but my prediction is we're not going to see any movement this week, because going into the no kings, they'll be able to add, and look at how we're shut down. Look at how many weeks the government is shut down. They're going to want that talking point, even though it's them that caused it. I'm frustrated. So, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. We're going to be later this month talking a lot about how drug-resistant superbugs are spreading. We're going to be talking about how we're seeing more and more issues as it pertains to people accessing their health care, and why Obamacare needs to be fixed, which I've said since 2009. So still keep listening. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA1. That's 800-JBS-USA1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA1 today.